Fanalysis combines the quantifiable analytics from research created for fantasy football, and we combine that with the latest betting trends to identify the sharpest angles. Lead betting analyst with Pickswise, Jared Smith, is here to talk a little bit about this. And we start things off with the Jets. 3.5-point home dogs to Miami. The Jets are 2-7 against the spread, but they lose those games by more than a touchdown against the spread per game. That is the worst in the NFL. So, who you got in this one?
So let's just take the Jets, right? I'll say this. The line movement here was interesting. 2.5 to 3.5, and that's when the Sharps kind of stepped in on the Jets and moved it back to 3. I would assume if you're going to get 3.5, you're going to have to pay for it. It'll be like 20 or 30 cents juice. If you can find a regularly priced 3.5, that would be my lean this week. The Joe Flacco news is interesting. I know there's been some people, probably your fan base, up in arms about from Flacco to White, and is Zach Wilson healthy? Is Wilson going to play again this year? There's a lot of questions about this Jets quarterback situation. I agree that Flacco probably gives them the best chance to win. It might not be the popular choice, but the line did not move in any direction after the news broke on Wednesday when Robert Saleh said it would be Joe Flacco this week. So that leads me to believe that the sharp money, the smart money is okay digesting Joe Flacco in the market. The real issue here with laying it with Miami, I just don't trust Tua, who clearly also not 100% with that rib injury. Tua as a road favorite is a really tough bet. That does not seem like a profitable bet to make long term. I don't love the Jets this week. I think there's better spots on the card. But if I get the 3 in the hook, I think that's the right way to play it.
And think about it this way. If Saleh goes with Flacco this week, no matter what Flacco does, when Wilson is healthy, it's going to be real easy to move on from Joe Flacco. If he would have
100%.
gone with Mike White, and Mike White has a good game, now Zach Wilson is healthy once again, now you've got a little bit of a fractured locker room there trying to decide which guy to go with. When Zach Wilson is healthy,
fascinating situation.
He's absolutely going to be in, and nobody is going to be crying over Joe Flacco going back to the bench or number 3, depending on where he actually goes. All right, the Giants playing Monday night. They're getting 11.5 points against Tampa. Tampa has looked, shall I say, vulnerable in the past couple of weeks. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, all of a sudden the Bucs have lost 2 in a row. I think we talked about this preseason or during week 1. The ability for them to stay up in not only over the course of a 16-game season, but now it's an extra game. Coming off of the Super Bowl and having all 22 starters come back. I think their defensive issues, I don't want to say that was the reason why they lost that game against Washington last week. I think Washington just wanted that game more. They needed that game more. And I think that's going to be the question here with the Giants. Off the bye, we talked about this a couple of times in prior weeks. Now we're starting to get a little more data. Teams are just 5-11 against the spread off the bye this year. It's still too small of a sample size this season to draw any reasonable conclusions, but it is certainly something to keep an eye on. Daniel Jones in primetime, that's another data point that we've kept an eye on. He has not won yet in primetime. I don't think the Giants win this game. I don't necessarily think that I think the Bucs probably get a wake-up call at some point, but I also think the smart money's moved this line a little bit closer to the Giants from 12.5 to 11.5. So while I do think Tampa Bay probably got the message last week, I still would take the Giants in this spot. I would take the points. They seem to be getting healthier too, which I think is really good news for Daniel Jones.
I mean, there's a lot of room between Daniel Jones being 0-7 and an 11.5-point spread. There's a lot of room there for both things to happen because we're starting to see with Daniel Jones in those primetime games, that trend has really started to snowball into a big problem for the Giants.
100%. And again, the NFC is not an open and shut case at the bottom of the conference. I'm not saying the Giants are going to make the playoffs, but the door is open if they can pull off an upset or 2 down the stretch for them to at least put themselves in the conversation. Washington did that last week. I'm not saying it's going to happen this week. Another thing to keep in mind, too, and I don't know if it's on Tom Brady's mind. I would assume it is, because I think Tom probably, it sticks in his craw, those 2 Super Bowls that he lost to the Giants. So I'm assuming there's a little bit of a revenge angle to, chew on this week. But again, it's a double-digit spread. We're not asking Daniel Jones for much. And I think the Giants' weapons, I saw Slayton Shepherd, those guys are coming back to practice after the bye. They're getting healthy. They were decimated by injuries before the bye. I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants are alive in this game in the second half.
Hey, man, it doesn't matter if he beats the Giants by 45 points in the regular season. The Giants still have those 2 rings over Tom Brady, and that will not go away. That's how he looks at the Jets and the Giants picks. Make sure you check out his best plays against the spread and our teaser in our other segment. For Jared Smith of Pickswise, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.